Welcome back to the IBFP. Here's your host, Boxing Nuke.
Welcome back, fight fans. Welcome back. Let's just dig right into it. Will Canelo Alvarez stay at 168 pounds or will he return to 160? Let's break it down. Now, one of the first challenges that he could face at 168 pounds is a Gilberto Zudo Ramirez. Now, he is 38-0 with 25 knockouts. Now, this is a very good opponent for him. But the only thing about this opponent is that he's 6'2.5" and he's 27 years old. So he's barely entering his prime, and he's extremely tall, extremely long. He could hit him with body shots while also maintaining his distance, which would make it extremely difficult for Canelo Alvarez to overcome that height and reach advantage. That would be the biggest test of his career as far as size, the biggest opponent he had ever faced. And Gilberto Ramirez is an undefeated world champion. Now, the only bad thing about this for Gilberto Ramirez is that he's never fought anyone on Canelo Alvarez's level or with his boxing ability. Think about it like this. When he fought a Jesse Hart back in 2017, in which he defeated via unanimous decision over 12 rounds, Jesse Hart actually had him wobbled a few times in that fight. Jesse Hart had him in trouble a few times in that fight, and that was not the easiest fight for Gilberto Ramirez. He has looked good in his two fights since, such as a Habib Ahmed, in which he stopped in the 6th round, and a Roma Angulo, which was a very good fight. He pretty much dominated him the entire fight. And Angulo was known as a power puncher. Gilberto Ramirez is a pure 168-pounder, but at the same time, his skill set and boxing ability make him vulnerable and make him more accessible to taking those big shots. And for a guy like Canelo Alvarez, who has precision and pop on all of his punches, he could end up giving Gilberto Ramirez hell. Now, this is becoming a reoccurring and common theme in Canelo fights, especially since he's moving up in weight. What can a guy do besides hitting with power shots? That's just the simple question. Because we all know at this point, Canelo Alvarez has a rock-solid chin. So we already know that he can take shots from big guys. If you remember, Gennady Golovkin was going to attempt to move up to face a Gilberto Ramirez because he felt like he could stop him. He's seen him hurt before, so he figured, hey, I can move up to 168, get that belt, and come back down to 160. You don't think that Canelo could probably see the same thing? There's a lot of flaws in Gilberto Ramirez that he feels like he can exploit. I know Canelo Alvarez would be able to box circles around Gilberto Ramirez, and that wouldn't be an ultimate challenge for him. David Benavidez, on the other hand, who is 20-0 with 17 knockouts, an extremely gifted power puncher. He's 21 years old. He's 6'1.5", and he has displayed tremendous skill and ability. I think David Benavidez would give Canelo Alvarez some major problems. In a fight like this, I don't recommend Canelo Alvarez taking. The guy is big. He's not only big, he's not only powerful, but he's smart, a much smarter boxer than Gilberto Ramirez. A much more effective boxer, much more precise. I just don't see that this being a good fight for Canelo. Now, I still would have to favor Canelo in this fight for the simple reason that Canelo has age, experience, and once again, he's still a superior boxer over David Benavidez. But David Benavidez is only 21 years old. He's still growing into his own. But being so big and powerful, I don't know if that's a risk worth taking when you have so many great fights to be made at 160 pounds from guys who aren't as strong or as powerful. But it goes back to the old question. What can a guy do to Canelo if he has a rock-solid chin and Canelo has the boxing ability? As of right now, we don't know if 168 pounds is too much and too far for Canelo. You have to remember, Canelo's about 5'8" to 5'9". And so giving up a lot of height and reach could eventually catch up with you. He has a big build, but at the same time, will that catch up? Will that be too much? We just don't know as of yet. Now, the next opponent that he could potentially face at 168 pounds is a Jose Uzcategui. And now he's 28-2 with 23 knockouts. This guy's 27 years old. He's 6'2", and he has a 76.5-inch reach. Now, I do believe Canelo Alvarez would box circles around Jose. I think that would not be an issue. I've seen Jose get outboxed, but at the same time, when you see Jose get outboxed, he typically stops his fucking opponent. This guy hits fucking hard. Now, when we talk power punchers, are we talking about elite level power? Yes, the fuck we are. Jose is very strong, very tall, very rangy, and even if he doesn't hit you cleanly, he could still have the ability to wobble you. His last fight came against Ezekiel Oswaldo, and basically he defeated him over 10-round unanimous decision, and this was at a higher weight. He came in at 172 pounds and a half for this fight. At the same time, Jose wasn't looking to knock this guy out. If you watch the fight, he was looking to go the distance, to get in some rounds, and basically he feels like everyone at 168 is scared of him to take his power shots, so he didn't want to do that. He wanted to face a guy at a higher weight that could probably absorb more of those shots, and he'd be content to cruise to a unanimous decision victory. Prior to that, he defeated Andre Durrell, in which he stopped him in the 8th round, and that was a very, very interesting fight. Basically, his power shots were just too much for Andre. And prior to Andre Durrell, the two fights, and one of the controversial with him, in which he was disqualified, in which he knocked him out again prior in the same round, but he was disqualified. He ended up fighting Fabian Pena, and basically he knocked him out in the 2nd round. Then a Derek Findlay, which he knocked him out in the 3rd round. A Julius Jackson, which he knocked him out in the 2nd round. And as you see this trend goes on, this guy has heavy fucking hands. He's only lost a fight via unanimous decision. He's never in disqualification. He's never fucking been stopped. Never. This guy's the most dangerous guy at 168 pounds in regards to power and strength, because even if he get outboxed, even if he's, can't really pretty much hit you with anything clean, he's going to eventually hit you with something at some point in the fight, and when he does, that could be the end of the fucking fight. I think his size, his power may just be a little bit too much for Canelo, but Canelo could shock us all, because Canelo has the foot speed, hand movement, and defensive abilities to keep distance, but it's hard to keep distance against a guy so fucking tall. So I think this would be his most difficult opponent. I think the best decision for Canelo Alvarez is to go back down to 160 pounds after getting a belt from Rocky Fielding, and then attempt to face a Danny Jacobs, a Jamal Charlo, guys that are more naturally his weight, a Billy Joe Saunders, a Demetrius Andre, a David Lemieux, instead of going up and staying at 168 pounds and competing, because pretty much everybody at 168 pounds is over 6 feet tall, has a bigger reach, they all have height advantage, and all of these guys can fucking pop. Just naturally, they're bigger men, and I wouldn't recommend Canelo having to have to outbox every single opponent, because eventually what happens when you get hit with something hard, because these guys have the reach, they have the size, they have the power. He should be fighting at 160 pounds, his more natural weight, his more natural size, and I think that's going to be a better move for Canelo. I think going up to 168 pounds and getting a belt off of Rocky Fielding, I think that'll be a good career move. But as far as anything else, I just don't believe that would be a smart decision, staying at 168 pounds. This is a quote from Rocky Fielding, basically, in regards to Canelo Alvarez and their upcoming fight. He basically stated he's moving up from middleweight. I'm a big super middleweight. I've got the height and reach, so I'm up against a tough fighter, one of the elite fighters, but I've got to be in it to win it. Now, that's what he gave to Sky Sports in an interview. He also stated, I'm going in there confident of winning it, and I'm confident I can win it. I'm not going in there just because it's Canelo in Madison Square Garden. I'm going to have to defend my title. I want to keep my title. I've worked towards winning it. Now I'm working on defending it, regardless of who it's against and where. I want to defend it as much as possible. This is just the first. Now, he's confident that he can beat Canelo Alvarez. He's confident that he can come in there and get the win. And being confident is a big thing, especially when you're a huge guy with the size, the reach advantage. But once again, I just don't believe that he's a good enough fighter to defeat Canelo Alvarez. I just think Canelo Alvarez could possibly stop him mid to late in that fight, even though he's the bigger man and he may be able to absorb more of Canelo's power shots. Canelo is just going to be too quick, too precise, and fucking him up. I see Canelo stopping him mid to late rounds, but also it's possible that they could go to a 12-round unanimous decision, but more likely I feel like Canelo could stop him. It's just that he's going to be able to hit Rocky so clean, so often. And we have not seen Canelo's power translate to a higher division. We haven't seen Canelo compete against much bigger, much stronger opponents at this higher weight class. So all of this is going to be a lot new for Canelo. But Canelo has the skill set because he is an elite level fighter. He has a rock solid chin. And he has the experience of fighting many other world champions, elite fighters, Miguel Cotto, Floyd Mayweather, Gennady Golovkin. He's shown enough in his career that he's able to adjust and adapt to pretty much any and every style, and that he can come in there and compete with the best in the world. Rocky Fielding is a decent fighter, but he's not the fucking best in the world. This should be an easy night for Canelo Alvarez. Once again, it's the IBFP. Please share, like, and you must absolutely fucking subscribe.